Hello and welcome to Podtoid. We are your hosts. I'm CJ.
I'm Chris.
I'm Dan.
I'm Charlotte.
I'm Occams.
And this is episode 421, and we have a really good show for you today. Dan is back with us. Welcome back, Dan. And
I am back, yes.
He is going to regale us with his trip to EGLX. Oh, I'm so excited to hear about, I guess, esports. I don't know if they do that thing anymore. I haven't been in a while. We're also going to talk about some Luigi's Mansion 3, some Fallout 76, and a mystery game coming from Suda51 and Swery. I just want to let you all know right now that if at any point during this broadcast it sounds as though I'm diving under my desk, it's because I am. We had an earthquake yesterday, and now everyone's just wondering if it's like a precursor to a big one because it was a small one. So that will be a fun audio cue just to hear my microphone fall off the stand. Or off my desk, but
just remember, CJ,
yeah.
Like stop, duck, drop, cover, and roll. Send your answers on a self-addressed envelope. Somewhere amongst that are the instructions you need for when there's an earthquake. But I can't
Was
remember
that for like a
ones.
nuke or whatever?
That's for bears, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, bears. That's it. Stop,
Okay.
drop, play dead, cover, and roll.
And if I could add to that, scattered, smothered, covered, top chopped, and diced.
do you even have earthquakes over there in England?
Very small ones.
Very small ones.
CJ
No.
busting out the "Can I talk to your manager" voice. I like it.
No, like we in my lifetime, I've been in like a few, and the worst has woken me up once, and that's like it.
Huh. Because I've lived on the West Coast for nearly all of my life, and this is just the entire West Coast of the United States is earthquake central. Like everywhere I live on top of like 14 different fault lines, and so it's always a matter of when is that next earthquake going to hit, not is one going to hit. But I'm always amused when they have one on the East Coast, and it's like it's a 2.0 or something like that, and it's just people are freaking out and a lawn chair falls over or something like that.
What we like to do is not have bad weather, but pretend we've had bad weather and complain about it. Like we have the most ridiculous reactions to like an inch of snow. Like everything shuts down.
They do that in the South as well. When they have snow in Atlanta, the entire city of Atlanta will shut down, even if it's a half an inch.
Well, you lived like in San Francisco for some time, and
Yeah.
do you still live in San Francisco? Does where you live now still count as San Francisco?
No, but people who aren't familiar with California might as well be.
Okay. And like as far as I'm aware, if movies have taught me anything, that you basically live like in like the disaster capital. Because I've seen so many of those '60s disaster movies that were always like, "Oh, San Francisco, here's the earthquake, San Andreas Fault, and all that." And then, of course, like View to a Kill, Max Zorin, Christopher Walken, actively tried to start an earthquake to sink Silicon Valley. So yeah, I'm glad you didn't get caught in that one.
Based on what we learned about Mark Zuckerberg this week, if only he'd succeeded with that plan. We could have avoided Facebook altogether.
Max Zorin was like a visionary villain. He
know.
was just like, at the time we were like, oh, but they sent Bond out there to stop him. But like he could have stopped a lot of internet disasters if his plan to like destroy Silicon Valley had worked.
If only he had succeeded, then pets.com would have never existed.
I've actually got a work shirt that's the label the label on the work shirt is Zorin Enterprises, which was like his company.
Oh, that's good. So yeah, if you hear that noise, it's me diving under a desk. Although, based on what's going on in California today, thank God I at least have power. Unlike half of the state right now. That's our new man-made disaster. Is we just lose power across the state every 5 days now because of slightly high winds.
Or the power company burns down a large chunk of the state.
Or both, because one of the fires
Yeah,
that
or
we
both.
have going on right now, PG&E came out and said, yeah, we're probably responsible for this one. So like it's literally a no-win situation because either they keep it on or there are fires or they turn it off and there are still goddamn fires.
So either the ground is shaking, something is on fire, or you can't connect to the internet.
Like
Truly
California's just
a
gonna
wonderful
fall into the
place.
sea. Yeah, no, it's a great state. Just so many different disasters awaiting you when you come to sunny California.
To be fair, though, I'd still go. Right, if someone offered.
Yeah, it's interesting what's going to happen in your country in 4 days.
Look, nothing's going to happen, and that's I'm moving on from that quick. But nothing's going to happen in 4 days. Like everything will just carry on as normal, and that's not even me being glib. That's exactly what's going to happen in 4 days. No, seriously, by the end of this week, Britain will still be a part of Europe. Absolutely, I'll put money on it. No worries. But I need to come to California because, like, I didn't spend my youth playing California games to not come and see the roller skating and the half pipe.
I mean, we do have one of those on every corner. So, and there's just plenty of people going around in that 80s pink spandex shorts and tank tops. Yeah, no, it truly is that's exactly what the state of California is like. The entirety of that game. Everyone just rollerblades to work and skateboards home.
Occams.
Yeah.
Hacky sack, am I right?
Oh my God. I did that in college.
I didn't have the coordination to do that in college.
I didn't either.
Hacky sack tried to be a thing here in Britain for like a month, but we were just all so uncoordinated that we had to send it back to America, sadly.
I so the group I played with, it was like a couple guys, one guy who'd played a lot in high school and was good, one guy who actively did martial arts and was very good, to like jump off the wall to get the hacky sack kind of thing, and everyone else was, fair to middling, and then there was me. Then there was me, and I was just baseline at everything. Like if I could get it 2 or 3 hacks or sacks or whatever the fuck it's called, I was having a pretty good day. Also, going back to the California conversation, my absolute favorite 80s movie California thing was anytime they showed the big dudes working out at Venice Beach. Always made me happy.
That is a classic. That same outdoor gym out there in Venice Beach and just these giant meatheads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess the point we're making is CJ, stop moaning. Like, you've got everything over there. You've got hacky sack and Silicon Valley and Facebook.
Wow.
Just that you need to stop complaining.
I guess I never looked at it that way.
There you go. That's why I'm here.
Okay, before we get talking about games, I want to start us off with a story real quick about how you know you're not going to get a job. For this story, we're going to go to Redmond, Washington, where a teenager had their sights set on getting a job at a local Subway fast food restaurant. Become one of those sandwich artists. So while this person is interviewing for this position, out of nowhere, a car crashes through the front of the building. Nobody was in the way of the car when it collided with the glass windows to the building. So the only thing that was hurt was the teenager's chances of getting this job because the driver of the car was their mother. According to KTVZ, Central Oregon's news leader, the woman was waiting for their child in their car to finish their job interview at the Subway restaurant when they fell asleep and pressed on the gas, sending the car flying forward into the building. The woman was let go with a citation. No word if the teenager actually did or did not get the job, but like you wouldn't want to work there after your mother crashed her car through the building, right? Like that's not a job you want to take.
Mate, given like the economy, I think you'd still take it. Do you know what I mean? Like, job's a job. I'm sorry. It's like you might have to wait another 6 months while they renovate the restaurant again. But I'll be here day one after the walls put back up and the fucking windows are in again. I'll be here bright and early.
I'm just like, does this woman not know how to turn off her car? I'm curious as to why you would have it in drive, holding your hand or your foot on the brake, I guess. Because I don't understand how you fall asleep and then you just send your car flying forward.
Boomers love just like leaving their car in park while it's still going for no reason whatsoever. It's all over the
gas
city,
is just so cheap
I
here.
hate it.
It would never fucking happened if she'd been on a Segway. I'll tell you that.
It would have been extra funny on a Segway. It would have just been a clunk.
Just colliding with the window.
Every time I go to the mall, they have the security guards, and they're on Segways, and I feel like they're just looking for more ways to make them want to kill themselves.
I swear, I didn't know whether that was just like a thing from films, but like legit, like they just go around the malls on Segways, right?
I legit would have just thought that was in like Paul Blart Mall Cop.
Right.
No, they're real, and they all have bike helmets on. And no, I don't care if you're Chris Hemsworth shirtless. No one looks fuckable wearing a bike helmet. So when you're already kind of like a doughy sad sack of a person, putting on a bike helmet, it doesn't. It's like it'd be like shaving down your beard into the Hitler stash. It just.
Might as well go all out, eh?
Yeah. I mean, it truly is funny because you have the security guards who are all kind of doughy on their Segways getting lapped by the 80-year-old mall walkers who's like, come on, at least they're using their feet. What's your fucking excuse?
Oh, God. And they can't do anything. They don't have guns. I guess they have, bear mace? Maybe. I don't know.
The last time I was in a mall, I watched a guy just book it out of a shoe store stealing a pair of shoes. And I don't even think the mall cop Segway could go a tenth of the speed that this guy was running. So I don't know what they're supposed to do with those things because it's not like they're going to catch anyone.
Yeah. There's a Jimmy John's close to where we live. And every time we walk by it, it's filled with nothing but like sad divorced dads. Mm-hmm. And it's like a natural history display of like sad divorced dads. And I wish that car had run into that Jimmy John's. Because I feel like it'd been doing those men and the world a favor.
Oh, damn.
Well, there were a few stories I saw this week of people running their cars into buildings. Another one I was thinking of talking about was a woman who got kicked out of a casino, so she drove her RV into the casino. And I'm thinking, you're in Vegas. There's like a casino on every fucking corner there. You probably could start a casino in your RV, lady. Come on.
It's just that she drove an RV into a casino. Like that's not like the B plot of a National Lampoon's movie. I mean, that's great.
All right, let's go ahead and move on from this and get talking about games. And specifically, let's get starting with Dan. Dan, how was EGLX?
Outside of the esports stuff, which I didn't really pay attention to, pretty good. There's a lot of interesting panels and stuff, and got to meet some of the Destructoid folks. That was pretty cool. They're all very busy though, so I didn't really bother them too much. I wish I took a photo though. I regrettably did not even take any photos of the convention a whole lot. So, but we did check out a number of panels, as well as like the giant main stage kind of deal.
Yeah,
right.
We saw Bruce Green from Funhouse Inside Gaming, YouTuber person. For those who don't know,
don't know who that is.
He did like G4 stuff back in the day as well, so he's been around. Anyways, he played a thing called Werewolf on stage with a bunch of random people. That was fun to watch and stare at for 15 minutes while I waited for a panel. But on that note of panels, we did check out the Watch Dogs developer panel and demo. We made an Impulse episode on that. It's on the YouTube channel now. That was pretty neat, getting to see just that game that early, I guess. I also bought some stuff, obviously. I bought some Wii games, things like that on the show floor. But overall, I didn't spend a whole lot of time on the main floor. Maybe like 2 hours at most, just because I was mostly just attending panels that day. And then I went around Toronto and did other things that I'll get into shortly. But in terms of indie games, though, there was some notable indie games on the show floor. I played 3 of them, or I'll go over 3 of them, I should say. First up was a little game known as Dune C. The only reason I played this was because as I was walking by, I guess the guy saw my media badge, just kind of like shoved a controller in front of me, and I felt like I didn't want to be a dick, so I played it. Anyways, I describe it as Flappy Birds meets Journey. You're basically a goose flying through a desert-themed level, dodging rocks and going through tight areas while constantly flapping to some nice music. It's a decent game in short bursts. It's available now on Steam with a whole 2 user reviews. So Dune C, that was a game that was just kind of just presented to me. Following that, though, these next 2 games are a little more notable, ones that I actually enjoyed playing. I was like, oh, this is something I want to talk about. Next up was A Full Depart. It's this neat little puzzler game. It's very colorful. It's what kind of attracted me to the demo when I saw the bright visuals and all that. It's basically a 3D puzzler with a narrative about long-distance relationships. And essentially, the whole puzzle gimmick is you're folding the level in various ways, like paper mache, basically.
Okay, I've seen this trailer.
Yeah, so at any moment you can pause and like bend basically the corners of the screen to kind of progress your way through the level. It's hard to explain without the visual context, but you can probably just imagine or picture how difficult some of the puzzles can get. In one example, there's clearly this gap that I get across, but on the other end of the screen behind you, you could see a piece of a bridge. So if you fold it the right way, you can get that bridge to then go over the gap and stuff. Basically, similar to that. It should become an Apple Arcade if it's not out already. And they plan on releasing this for the PlayStation 4, Switch, and PC at a later date.
Nice.
That one I recommend checking out. It's pretty good. Lastly was a neat little game that was kind of like just hidden away in the very corner of the convention somewhere that we stumbled on, called The Crimson Diamond. I watched my friend Sam play this one. It's basically a mystery adventure game, very much inspired by the older MS-DOS adventure games, right down to the visuals and the typing out command style of gameplay. I won't go in the story too much, but the visuals are on point, right down to like the pink colored skin and stuff like that in terms of the overall aesthetics. But there's a free demo available now on Steam. And the requirements I thought were pretty funny. You need 55 megabytes of space and Windows 98 or later. That's it.
Nice.
But overall,
we
EGLX...
might have found a game that my PC can actually run, to be honest.
There you go.
Yeah.
EGLX had benefits after all, outside of the esports stuff. You could play Fortnite on the show floor in this like giant, I guess, LAN setup. I guess that was something. I was tempted to play Fortnite, but I restrained myself because I didn't want to spend 30 minutes doing that and potentially miss a panel. But outside of that, I went up to CN Tower. It was tall. That's the CN Tower. I took a photo, I guess, at night at like 10 p.m. Didn't even look that good of a photo, so I deleted it off my phone on the airplane. And then, then we also had Garfield food.
Now, for people who don't know, tell us about the Garfield restaurant, Garfield Eats.
So, Garfield Eats is a brand new and exciting food destination, only available in Toronto and Dubai, funny enough. And you can't eat in, actually, despite there being like a physical location. I don't think you can actually go in and eat. You can only order food. So it's already kind of sketchy at best. But you have to order also from an app that I could not download on my phone. We had to use my friend's phone, his iPhone. Then I had to log into his iPhone and then order it that way. So right off the bat, Android support, sketchy at best. We even had a hard time even finding it on the Apple Play Store. So that's already questionable. But anyways.
Well, there are like 9,000 Garfield games in the App Store.
Type in Garfield and you get an ocean of garbage. But so we ordered the food. And the guy sounded... Because when you place an order, you still then need to call them and talk to them. So it's already...
Fucking great.
Really, really complicated. And the guy sounded just downright baffled.
That someone was using the app?
Yeah, definitely.
That makes sense, though.
Yeah.
It does. It really does.
Sounded just kind of confused about us being in a hotel in Toronto ordering from this place. Anyways, the food arrived about an hour later, even though the restaurant was maybe about, I'd say like a 10-minute walk away or so. So that was already a little concerning. We got it. We met the dude down in the lobby with his orange Garfield box. That's how we spotted him. It's very easy to see. And it was right away. I remember opening up the pizza box, grabbing a piece, and being like, "Wow, this is not even hot at all. This is downright lukewarm at best." Bit into the pizza. It was bland. It was thin. There was barely like any toppings or any cheese, and it was called the Jim Davis.
But I think you're missing out the money shot here, which it was shaped like his Garfield's head, right?
That is true. It was shaped like Garfield's head.
You see, Dan, that's what you were paying for. You see.
Oh, by the way, I didn't even go to the price for this. We used a 50% like first time order coupon, and that was $28.
Jesus Christ!
The lasagna and a drink. So
and
that's
what drink was
thing.
it again?
I got a pumpkin spice, some Garfield stupid name latte that I forgot the name of.
It was Garfuccino, right?
There we go, Garfuccino. I'm really glad.
I didn't even go, and I remember.
and I have to ask, outside of a Garfield-themed environment, would you ever combine pizza with a pumpkin spice cappuccino?
No, but in this case, I hadn't had any coffee. Like, I got off the plane like 2 hours ago. I was sitting at an airport for like 3 hours because this was like the first time I've been to an airport in years. So I was overly paranoid and decided to arrive 3 hours early. Checked in, and that took like 5 minutes and went, oh. So I needed caffeine. And
but the real question that like the audience is waiting on is, how was the lasagna?
Oh yeah, the lasagna, yeah, the lasagna. For context, I gave the fine folks here an image, and you'll be able to see the image on the YouTube thumbnail, I'm sure.
And we'll link to it. Yes.
And yeah, I remember my friend Sam. He ordered that specifically. I got the pizza and the Garfuccino or whatever, and he opened it up and was like, "Oh, great." And then I looked over and saw what it was, and like I said, if you had not told me this was lasagna and made me guess, I could not tell you what this was. It looked like moldy, like Domino's cheesy bread or whatever. It was a sad lump of food in a tiny box. It was something.
Maybe that's why the employee was so shocked people were ordering Garfield food, because he sees it every day and is wondering who on earth would eat this shit.
Yeah, and while you wait for your order or whatever, because it's so weird. You got to make your order and then you call them to confirm it, which is already way too much.
Mm-hmm.
You then do play AR games while you wait for your order, so you can move your phone around and Garfield will be on the screen. And you play a crappy Fruit Ninja knockoff while you wait.
Sounds wicked. I'm sorry. I think this is great. I tell you what I really want to know. Though. Please tell me that they close on Mondays.
No, they're open on Mondays. That was one of the things I noticed. Yeah. Also, all of the user reviews seem fake. They were just a bunch of random numbers and names and overly positive. I was already very sketched out by it all.
You say the Jim Davis, and it sounds like a sex move where you use an old gym sock as a dental dam or something. It just
that's just gross. That's the grossest thing I've ever heard today.
Yeah.
It's still early, so who knows what's going to come up later.
Give me time.
Go ahead.
Overall, EGLX was a good time. I got to see the Detroit boys conduct an interview with Patrice as well. That was pretty interesting. I don't know when we're getting video of that.
I think when we did the when I was there and they interviewed the Cuphead people, it took a while for that to come up.
It took 8 months.
Yeah, so it could be well. Nice.
I have to ask, was Torch wearing a Gundam shirt?
He told me not to reveal his identity in any way, but no.
Oh,
he did buy Gundam stuff.
I'm sure.
Of course he did.
I witnessed. Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to Occam's. Occam's, what's why you playing Fallout 76?
Well, all the hubbub, and I like the simple pleasure, and I said this a while ago, of just roaming the countryside, shooting ghouls, encountering things. It's fun.
Yeah.
And there's still that simple pleasure, but it's diminished a little bit. You do that thing where you pick up some stuff and all of a sudden you're over encumbered. And I fucking hate that. I've just realized I hate survival games. I hate the idea of weight limit. It's bad enough I have to when I have to bring in the groceries and I'm carrying, roughly 700 pounds of canned goods and everything else. And then you look in the trunk of the car, and the toilet paper's still there, just looking at you like, yeah, I'm like 3 feet by 3 feet of mass. You gotta deal with, and you have to get it in one trip, otherwise the demons win. And it just, I don't like doing that in real life, and I don't want to fucking deal with that in a video game.
That's a great example.
There's a brand new service.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that later.
Yeah.
So I wanted to jump back in and see how I felt, and I'll say I did have a really nice experience because I think I'm like level 28 or 29, nothing special, and I'm just wandering, and all of a sudden I'm playing, I have my headphones on, I hear meat, and I'm like thinking like, what? It's like it's somebody talking, and it's part of my screen name, and I turn around, and there's like this, just all of a sudden standing in front of me is this giant in this super crazy suit of power armor whose level's like 135, and he's like, meat, you doing some quests? And I my headphones, I guess there's a mic built in. I'm like, sure. Also, full disclosure, I was really drunk. I was just bored and drunk. I'd just be like, yeah, I'm doing quests. And he's like, all right, follow me. We're gonna get you through this. The voice coming from the other end of the internet or whatever, I would conservatively say they're 12, maybe 11.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little boy, and he was so kind. And just like, he's like, you're doing this quest, it's a tough one. I remember doing that myself. We're gonna get you through it, dude. I got you covered. He has a laser Gatling gun, and he's just mowing down level 80 and 90 zombies like it's nothing. I am just following behind him, kind of giggling, because I'm just like, sure, I'm just gonna kind of stay in your wake here, whale shark, and just try not to get caught up in the storm. And it was really pleasant. And he's like, all right, man, it's a tough one. We got you on this. Pick up this stuff here. You can't use it yet, but one day you're gonna be able to. It'll be awesome. And here, we'll be friends on the thing. I did not accept his friend request because I am old enough to be his dad, and then some. So, no, I'm good. No, I'm all right. But I wish him nothing but the best. He was a sweet kid, and in my experience of playing with people online, especially back in the days where like Halo 2 was out, that was not common to have a nice experience. So kudos to this kid. And if I never pick up Fallout 76 again, it was really nice for a few minutes being shepherded into high level areas by this child in giant power armor with a laser Gatling gun.
Yeah, I've watched a few streamers that have gone back to Fallout 76 and have had a similar experience in the case of just like some random high level person just appearing and being like, do you need help? So it seems the people that are at least playing this game, there is a very friendly community there at least. So
yeah, they really do seem to be. And I also noticed that everyone I saw on my map was over level 100 except me. So it tells you something.
No, yeah, there's definitely like a little community around this game. And even if you go to the Reddit page, outside of all the shit posting about the very obvious stuff, there's a very dedicated community that have rules of like, we need to help as many new people as we can to keep this thing alive.
Yeah.
So...
And then, what's this about Return of the Living Dead?
Yeah, so Friday night, there's a theater near us that does, like every Halloween, they do a month-long Halloween horror movie series. And every year it's different movies. And this year, the one we really wanted to see was Return of the Living Dead. Mm-hmm. One of my favorite 80s horror movies of all time. A kind of spiritual successor to the original Night of the Living Dead. It's referenced in the movie. I remember renting this, God, I guess I was in 6th grade, renting it from Major Video, RIP. And it's just wonderful. You have everything you could ever want in a horror movie. A really good kind of punk soundtrack with like the Cramps and different bands. You've got Linnea Quigley, who is a kind of 80s horror vixen, I guess for lack of a better term. Her perfect fake 80s boobs. Full frontal nudity, even though they definitely had like a latex patch over her vagina, and the just dancing randomness. All the zombies are really smart, by the way. Like there's one point where an ambulance comes in to help somebody. The zombies eat the ambulance drivers, and then a zombie proceeds to get on the little radio in the ambulance and say, "Send more ambulances." It's that kind of movie. It's ridiculous. It's great. If you haven't seen it, I cannot recommend it enough. There's also Return of the Living Dead Part 2 and 3, which I recommend.
And 4 and 5.
Oh no shit! There are 4 and 5. No, wow, see, I'm
Yeah,
behind.
yeah.
Wow. I can't speak to 4 and 5, but I feel like maybe they're not the greatest. But 1, 2, and 3 are worth your time. Diminishing returns on that. Yeah. But it's a wonderful film, and there's actually the movie clocks in like at 90 something minutes. There is a making of documentary that's almost 3 hours long. So it holds a very special place in kind of horror movie fandom for a certain type of fan. So it's worth your time, certainly.
It's basically more than the sum of its parts, isn't it? Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Like, with no pun intended. It's had like some of the guys who worked on the Muppets like made some of the zombies in it, so the zombies have got like a really interesting movement to them. There's the guy who's like all covered in tar. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the Tar Man. Yeah, like
Yeah.
the what's his name? Works with Guillermo del Toro, Doug Jones. Like that kind of. It's not
Okay.
him, unfortunately, but it's that like that kind of physicality where it really sells the role, sells the character.
And it's super like in keeping with its punk rock aesthetic. It's like a super nihilistic movie with like a really it's kind of a lightweight movie, but it has these moments that are really dark, and it kind of all builds to this kind of super doomsday kind of ending. But it's kind of clearly holding a mirror up to itself, because it's definitely kind of taking the piss almost out of itself and its own genre a little bit, isn't there? There's like
Very, very, very much so.
but the
and, like,
punks who are in it are just so.
I was
they
just
basically
about
look
to
like,
say.
yeah, go on. They basically look like a gang that you fight in like an arcade game, don't they? Do you know
Oh
what I
yeah,
mean?
they were pulled straight out of like central casting for Police Academy 2. Like it's that kind of, and they have names like Trash and Suicide.
Suicide.
Yeah. I forget what Linnea Quigley's. I forget her name, but it's
She's
just like
trash.
her. Oh, she's trash. Yeah. Her lines in the movie are like, "I like death," and then later when she's naked, because I guess that was like the first question they asked her when she auditioned for the role, she's like just crying and shivering and like, but earlier on she's all, death makes me horny, and that's just it's so good. It's such a stupid, fun, amazing movie. And it's just really it stands the test of time. It really does.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to Charlotte. Charlotte, where are you in Metal Gear Solid 5?
I am done.
Woo!
I got the true ending. I got the quiet ending, which was an absolute ball ache to get. There's loads more I could do with the game, but I think I'm done with it for now, to be honest.
Congratulations, that's the new You Finish the Game song.
One day we'll play that for Dan and Red Dead.
One day, yeah.
Yeah, I've been just before the podcast started recording, I've been going through. I have Metal Gear HD collection.
Yeah.
So I've been going through that, and like I've started playing Metal Gear Solid 2 a long time ago, but I got stuck on the water section. Where you're like swimming with Emma through those tunnels.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah, not good controls. So I decided to give 3 and Peace Walker a try, and I think I might at some point give Peace Walker a go, but 3 is just, I can tell it's going to be too difficult for me. Like I chose easy mode and I was still getting spotted all the damn time. So I think that's going to be, my patience levels aren't made for something like Metal Gear Solid 3. So I'm probably going to move on to Persona, because that's been something on the back burner, but I'm sort of weighing up what my next options are with what I'm going to play. Now that Cane and Rinse I'm not going to be doing anything for that until December now. So I've been installing the DLC for Final Fantasy 15, because that's going to be my last game for my other podcast for this year. So I finished 15 already, but I want to play all the Royal content and also the Arden DLC episode.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I finished that game and then never touching the DLC, and by the end of that, I had no idea what was going on. So
That's why you need to play the DLC.
Yeah, I'm interested in finding out more about Ignis, because I really enjoyed Ignis as a character, and his character arc was kind of heartbreaking. So
I don't even know if you can talk about this, because I don't know how spoilery it is, but you said like getting the quiet ending was like a real chore. What are like the circumstances that bring that about?
just that basically you go into that battle that mission with so you have to do it with rocket launchers. And
Okay.
I had been playing it entirely, like the game mostly stealthily, so I hadn't developed any rocket launchers. And yeah, you can't back out of the mission. like you can only Fulton extract yourself out if you happen to find like the container that you can attach yourself to. Otherwise, you're stuck in a loop and you just get sent back to the last checkpoint, or you have to restart the mission, but you can't exit out and try other missions.
Right.
So
Is this the
that's fun.
is this the infamous like mission? Is it 43? Is it or something like that, or is that another problem in and of itself?
Yeah, that's a different problem. This is mission
Okay,
45.
right.
I think,
Okay.
isn't there a buggy? Are you talking about the mission that's really buggy and you have to complete it a certain way or you
I
get
don't
stuck?
know. I don't know because I didn't want anyone to spoil it for me, but I know that everyone I know who played that game was pulling their hair out when they got to mission 40 something, and they were like pulling their hair out trying to do it.
It might be that one, but there's also I hear mission 43 is bad as well, but that's kind of optional because once you get past the first ending, a lot of the missions are like harder versions of earlier ones, and you don't have to do
right.
those.
Okay. Maybe I should go and complete it, and then you can play that song for me, CJ.
Yeah. So which Persona, like the original Persona or any of 2, 3, 4, 5, I guess now? Yeah, they have 5. Which Persona are you going to install?
The original one. I
original.
started playing it about a month ago, and then I stopped, so I need to pick that up again. But I'm playing the PSP version, which has introduced some nice quality of life stuff, and it plays a lot more like Persona 3 than the original that was on PS1. So that's pretty good.
Yeah. Okay, let's go ahead and wrap up with me. I can go ahead and talk about this game because the review embargo will be up well before this episode airs. For the past 2 weeks or so, I've been playing Luigi's Mansion 3, which is the new sequel in the Luigi's Mansion series from Next Level Games and Nintendo. This one is set at the Last Resort. I keep wanting to call it the Last Resort Hotel, but it is the Last Resort. God damn, I had to delete that a lot out of my written review. And the script for my audio review or the video review. And I guess the best thing I can say is that if you love Luigi's Mansion series, I can't imagine you're not going to just downright enjoy every aspect of this one, with the exception of the Scream Park. I know that's what Nintendo has been kind of pushing out with their trailers recently, the Scream Park minigames. There's only 3 of them. I don't see them being anything that anyone would ever want to boot up. Like, if you're going to go and have a party game night where you bring over 7 of your friends to play through some video games, I can't imagine you putting in Luigi's Mansion for these 3 games versus any of the other party games that are available for Switch. They're really odd additions. There's no bots, so you can't play it by yourself. But even then, they're not entirely that fun, so I don't know why you would anyways. Anyway, the central campaign of the story takes place in the Last Resort. Once again, you are playing as Luigi, trying to stop King Boo, who has captured all of your friends and brother and put them in paintings. And so you're going through this 17-floor building. There's 2 basements. Defeating bosses and trying to find out where your friends have been taken and where their paintings are being stored. The first Luigi's Mansion, the gameplay was really basic, and it's a really short game. Dan, you reviewed the 3DS version last year, so it's a little bit more fresh in your mind than it may be for some people. Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon really stepped up the gameplay in terms of what you needed to do to defeat ghosts. It wasn't just so easy as shining a light on them. I had to flash them, in addition to trying to suck them in and capture them. And in Luigi's Mansion 3, all of the tools that you had in Dark Moon are still there, but now you also have the ability to slam ghosts, which is a great way to cut down on time on how long it takes to catch some of these very large ghosts with a lot of energy. You have the suction shot, which fires a plunger at the ghost or any of the puzzles or traps that you may encounter in this game. And then there's a burst move, which basically it gives you a jump. There's also Gooigi. And, I think one of the selling points that they're trying to do with this game is to sell it as a co-op experience. But having gone through it really isn't. It very much feels like co-op is just an option you can have for what is clearly designed to be a single-player experience.
Right.
There are portions of the game where Gooigi is split up from Luigi and has to act on his own. And it's in those moments that you kind of realize like the second player isn't going to do anything here, or in those cases, the first player isn't going to do anything there. There's really only one moment in the game where Guigi and Luigi can act in tandem to make an activity easier. But generally, everything else is built around this being a single-player experience where you control two characters. And so if you want to play this co-op, it will probably be enjoyable. It wasn't for me, though. Like, I played it for a few hours with a neighbor. Didn't really care for it because it kind of made everything a little too easy.
So I've seen around that some people have said that they've found the game legitimately kind of scary and creepy. Like, what do you have to say about that?
So there,
I like the way I said, what do you have to say about that? Like, explain yourself.
There are jump scares, not a whole lot of them, but the way that the game uses lighting and sound to create shadows, to have the sudden burst of lightning in the window, it's effective. And I think there can be moments in it where you're just kind of moving through a dark corridor with a little bit of light, and down comes this spider right in front of you that you don't even see. That can be, it can be scary. It can be kind of creepy. There is at least 2 moments in the game that I had a shiver run down my spine just because of something I saw on the screen. So, don't expect, like a Resident Evil level of fear here, but I think they do go above, or they do go beyond of what the past Luigi's Mansion games have done in terms of trying to creep out people.
By any chance, did those 2 moments that bothered you involve spiders?
Yes, they both did.
Right, I thought
they most certainly both did.
I know one moment. I put it at the start of the video review, so...
Yeah.
You are listening to Podtoid.
That is it for games, but we do have some headlines to cover. It is time for the news. And real quick, a little bit of breaking news. This has been rumored for a while, and now we've got a better confirmation that is going to happen. According to ESPN, Blizzard is set to unveil Overwatch 2, or what is being called the next iteration of Overwatch, at BlizzCon, which I believe is this coming weekend. According to the source, the Overwatch 2 will feature PvE, so no longer just all PvP. It will have new maps, new game modes, and a new hero, among other updates. It's unclear right now if this is a full-fledged sequel that you have to purchase, because allegedly it will only have one new character, and it's looking like it's going to be Echo, who was revealed last year, or if this is just going to be an update, which... Given that every time I update Overwatch on my PS4, it's 17 gigs because it's just re-downloading the entire fucking game. I'm not looking forward to doing that. But so that is a little bit of breaking news from ESPN. Overwatch 2, among other things, being rumored for BlizzCon this year. So, anyways, as for the stories this week, it's hard to say what was the bigger one, but I figure we'll start with Fallout first, which is the new subscription service to Fallout 76. As you may remember, Fallout 76 didn't have the smoothest of launches or the year following it. After delaying an update that would add human NPCs to the game to next year, Bethesda revealed Fallout First to what can only be described as a mixed response. For $100 a year, players can get access to private worlds, a monthly stipend of atoms, a scrap box, and a fast travel survival tent. I did see a point being made on Twitter that the only people who were bashing this idea were people who had given up on the game or had never played it in the first place. However, since it launched pretty much just like how Fallout 76 did, with a lot of problems. The biggest of which is that the scrap box, for some people, has permanently deleted the guns and items that they stored in it. And it looks like the private worlds you're paying for may not be all that private. There are reports of people finding dead NPCs and looted boxes. There are also reports of people with a lot of friends cannot control who is and isn't allowed into their new private world. Occams, considering you just spoke about Fallout 76 earlier in the show, is there anything Bethesda could do to get you to subscribe to this service?
No. No. I can't imagine a world I'd pay $100 a year
I'll tell you what, though. It'd be like the equivalent of you taking in all of those canned goods and that toilet roll and then putting them in the cupboards, and then they all just vanish.
That's what I was going to say earlier, yeah.
That's a horrifying thought.
It's just baffling that, like, seeing that community, though, the ones that are going out of their way to help these new players, I'm sure there's a few of them that bought this without even thinking about it. And then to lose that goodwill of potentially having their inventories wiped by that storage and the goodwill lost from that. Jesus.
I can understand if you have invested a year of your life into Fallout 76 and it is the game that you play of investing $100 a year into this service. But I can't imagine how disappointing it is for them to have it be broken upon launch. Like, that is crazy.
They must be used to it by now, honestly. Like, they have to, like, predict this.
I think the worst part would probably be like signing up for it and being one of the people who, with good faith, is an early adopter for this thing that everybody's like kind of trashing, and then being bitten by it.
Yeah.
Like, if you go online and everyone's ripping on it and everyone's saying it's terrible and everyone's mocking Bethesda for the idea, and then you go, well, actually, I'm not going to fall in with that crowd and I'm going to pay for it because I like this game, and then you kind of like have problems with it and you lose all your stuff. It must be really hard to not feel like really kind of like almost foolish in that moment, even though you were just operating with the best intents and had faith in the product. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think for me, my first thought when I read that was like, okay, I could spend $12 a month or $100 a year to have Fallout 76, or I could resub to like Final Fantasy 14, which is just, I mean, it's night and day in terms of the quality and level of care and that goes into those games. When you have so many other nice alternatives, if your community is there, you're in it, I get that. But if you're just like an outside person, like, this sounds interesting, I can't imagine they're going to draw in many people that way.
Notably, though, as Moyes mentioned in his article, that this launched on Fallout Day, the unofficial Fallout Day, October 23rd. That's when in the universe of this series, the bombs dropped. Mm-hmm. So there's a cruel irony there. Game Pass is also an option, and it's $10 a month, or $1 if you get like their deal right now. And it has the other alternative to Fallout that recently came out. It's a lot better.
Outer Worlds, right?
And even Fallout New Vegas. So
I was gonna say you can get Outer Wilds through Game Pass, because I do not, my brain cannot compute which one is which. It can, but I get them mixed
Outer
up
Worlds,
all the time.
Outer Wilds, yeah. Anyways, okay, moving on. Our second story of the week is about all the game delays we had last, I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday. It was over the course of just a few hours. Several big upcoming games were hit with delays, the biggest of which being The Last of Us Part 2, which will now release in May instead of February, like Sony told us, what was that, less than a month ago we found out the release date?
Right.
That was like a really quick turnaround for the delay, but in fairness, delays at Naughty Dog should not be a surprise. Uncharted 4 was delayed like 2 or 3 times before it was released. So, whatever, I guess, gets them to make the best version of the game. And then just a few hours later, Ubisoft announced that it was delaying Watch Dogs Legion, Gods and Monsters, and Rainbow Six Quarantine into the next fiscal year, which means they won't launch before April of 2020. The blame of this delay seems to be pointed directly at Ghost Recon Breakpoint, which not only missed its projected sales numbers for its opening month, even though it charted on the MPD, it apparently did not meet their expectations. It's also one of the worst reviewed AAA games of the year. It launched with a myriad of bugs, and the general consensus seems to be that it's just boring. The thing that worries me about this Ubisoft delay is that no one recognized before this game went out that it was bad, or at least they didn't care and hoped that people wouldn't care or people wouldn't notice. As we get into the next generation of gaming, what's clear is that 7 years into this generation, they still don't have it right. You still have developers making products that have problems, which probably shouldn't exist this late into a console generation.
The thing that's difficult about games as a service, live service style games, is you need that player base initially to really get that critical feedback on how the game actually operates as a live service. And the only way to really do that is to launch it. And it's real hit and miss because of that. Like, they could probably get as many bugs as they can fixed within their own little private setups and servers and all that. But when it finally goes public and those servers are just being hammered by like thousands and thousands of players, and they're just stumbling on bugs they never even discovered initially, it can be an issue. So I guess it's just like one of the drawbacks of this idea of games as a service, this always online kind of mentality. But there is also just a worrying trend of, we're just going to put out the game. If players find bugs, we'll patch it then. There is kind of like this worrying trend of, let's just get the game shipped and out there, then we'll patch it.
I think part of the problem, although like you could talk about this for hours and hours because it's on so many different levels of the industry, is it's part of this whole having to have something out for a season. It's part of this whole like Mortal Kombat 11 is one of the most kind of stripped down of the Mortal Kombat titles and had the shortest announced to release period of a Mortal Kombat game in ages. Ditto for kind of Street Fighter 5, and these were all games that needed to be out before Evo, and you know that that's the case because they always kind of drop in April, or I think Street Fighter was in February. And then there's kind of getting things out before Black Friday and getting things out before the holidays, and there's just this huge issue with putting out these dates ahead of time. The publishers putting out these dates, and then they go to their shareholders and they have their financial calls and they say this is the time and this is when it's coming out, and then they base their entire yearly projections on the knowledge that this is when this is coming out. And then the people who are actually making the trees and recording the music and doing the motion capture, those guys and those people are just like, we're going to have to bust our ass and we're going to have to kind of get this done. And we have this problem with crunch, which is a whole other topic that I don't want to sideline into in this line of dialogue. But what the problem is you say this date, you say this month, and then you basically go out there and you say to all your shareholders and everything, this is how much money we're going to make by this date because of this release on this date. And they're just like, fuck the people who have to actually make the game. And those people make that game, and a lot of the time they're just doing it as hard as they can, do it as best as they can. But they're barely allowed to push back that date because it's like, but all of our projections are based on this coming out on November 14th, 2019, or whatever the date is. And it's that inflexibility that causes these rushed products. And the weird thing with Breakpoint was that was clearly something that they thought was going to run and run. They spent a fortune on the marketing. They had that trailer that was filmed by like the Deadpool guy, do you know what I mean? And that live action trailer
as well.
Yeah. It had like the budget of like a small Hollywood movie, but none of this matters when you're kind of saying this has to be out by, It's an obvious comparison to make, but we haven't mentioned WWE 2K20, which came out this week and is kind of a disaster of a product. And halfway through, kind of there was like a change in teams, but nobody was allowed to just go, let's not release a game this year. Let's just start next year's game. No one was allowed to do that because it was already inked in that like this is how much we've planned for this, and this is the marketing budget for this, and we've told our shareholders that this is coming out on this day. And there's way to it. I'm just talking about financial projections and shareholders, and there's way more to it than that. But it's that inflexibility which is causing a lot of these like disaster products to come out.
The thing is I was thinking at first, this is good because it'll reduce the risk of crunch if things come out later. But I'm not entirely sure. I feel like crunch might become more of a behavior rather than a reaction to a lack of time. And there could be a risk that even if a game gets pushed back, there's still going to be these patterns of things being left to the last minute that leads to crunch. So I feel like it's good that things get pushed back and they get the time that they need. But if people are still leaving critical parts of the project right to the end, then there's still going to be crunch. Crunch is just a horrible problem in a lot of industries, and it goes far beyond pushing deadlines back, unfortunately. A lot of it is behavioral and to do with power structures, and
In terms of WWE 2K20, a few years ago, I can't remember which developer it was. Maybe it wasn't Take-Two, but they, you have the NBA 2K series from the same publisher, and then you have the NBA Live series. And I believe the NBA Live series, there was like 2 years in a row that they didn't release a game because
that was EA.
Yeah, because it just wasn't good. Which definitely seems like something 2K should have done this year with WWE. I mean, it's not like there's competition in the wrestling simulation genre with video games because, if people didn't already abandon the 2K WWE series for that Fire Pro Wrestling, they're certainly not going to do it now. And, releasing a game this broken, this buggy, it will never do anything to hurt to help your brand. It's only going to hurt it. And so I guess it's what you said, Chris. This was already baked into their projected profit forecast for the year. So obviously it has to go out, and to not even get a delay. I don't think this was even delayed one time to have it released in the state. Just I don't know. It makes me question who's in charge over there.
Because it just has to be out by that holiday period, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I don't know what the licensing agreement is like with WWE, but would the McMahon family have something to say if a game didn't come out this year, or do they have no say or no control or no interest in the games?
Probably no say until a contract thing comes up. So, but once the contract is kind of over with 2K, I imagine they're gonna reflect on the 2K20 stuff and be like, yeah, we don't know about this anymore. So.
Well, isn't that up and coming wrestling organization also putting out their first video game next year?
Probably not next year, but they are working on a game. And the big spicy rumor is that's where Utes went. So, but who knows?
And on top of that, there's also that, and this has gone a bit quiet. But do you remember I wrote earlier this year that there was an element of 2K that was thinking of doing another wrestling game that wasn't WWE in order to compete with themselves?
I do remember that.
Do you remember that? Was that Utes, was it?
That was Utes. Utes themselves went out and released this release being like, yeah, we're going to start working on a new wrestling game, blah, blah, blah. And then shortly after that, they went quiet. And then shortly after that, we found out Visual, whatever the hell they're called, the
Visual Concepts, is it?
Visual Concepts were the only studio now working on WWE 2K20. So I think they were maybe trying to still do both 2K20 and their other project, but they ended up just ditching that altogether. So
I don't know whether
sounds like a mess.
I don't know whether this will change by the time that this episode hits or whatever, but apparently I saw a murmur online today that Sony are offering refunds for anyone who bought 2K20.
Yeah, there's been some murmurings about that all over Reddit and stuff, and refunds just being sent out for the game. So the weird part is too.
Poor Becky Lynch. She's got no face.
Yeah, no face. The face is gone.
The face fell off. Her hair went about 3 feet higher than her head. Yeah.
Your character creator's eyes can kind of fall out and droop. It's terrifying. Anyways, the weird part is too, they could have delayed this to April, which would have been WrestleMania season, which would have made, I'd argue, more sense. But what do I know?
Yeah, I never got the concept of launching a wrestling game in November. What are people going to look forward to? Survivor Series? Because Madden launches at the beginning of the NFL season. 2K launches at the before basketball starts. MLB The Show, I think, launches right at the beginning of baseball season. So It seems weird. I mean, I guess, wrestling doesn't have a season, but I don't understand why you wouldn't.
Arguably, right after WrestleMania is the start of the brand new season, and you'd think this would be the perfect time to be let's fucking delay this thing.
Yeah, but they have
April.
They have events year round, though.
Yeah,
sure.
I wouldn't class wrestling as something that has a season.
Yeah,
it kind of has a restart,
but it has a fresh start again in terms of storytelling and whatnot, right after Mania. So I don't know.
Okay.
You think that would be the perfect time to launch a game, but
we've officially talked about wrestling far longer than I ever wanted to after I turned 26. So let's go ahead and move on to some finally good news. Japanese developer Suda51 and Swery held an event last week broadcast by IGN Japan where they revealed that they are, in fact, working on a joint project. These two are clearly friends, and Destructoid has interviewed them separately and together in the past, so it's no surprise that this is finally happening. The game will be called Hotel Barcelona, will apparently be published by Devolver Digital, even though it doesn't seem they're aware of it, and will take inspiration from Siren and, surprise, surprise, Twin Peaks. I love Swery. I love his games, but we're getting a little predictable with the Twin Peaks influence. Like, unless he's going to make a game, like this game is about another part of the series, it's just going to feature a one-eyed woman trying to invent silent drapes or something. Like, that would be an interesting take on pulling from Twin Peaks. But yeah, this is anyone else as excited as I am about this game that I know nothing about other than it's a horror game called Hotel Barcelona?
I wasn't sure about the combination of Suda51 and Swery, because it seems like it would make sense at first, but then their styles are pretty distinctive. But if you go back to Killer 7, it's clear that like Suda51 can do really bizarre and weird stuff. So I think this is going to be really exciting. But as soon as you said Twin Peaks influence, I'm like, no, can you not do something different? Like, I don't know. D4 was a really good game, even though it was obviously way too short because it got cancelled mid-production. But like, he can do other stuff. Like, why does he have to do more Twin Peaks influence stuff? I don't know. Seems a bit of a shame, but I feel like it would be a very, very good combination, and I just hope that they make the most of putting their two powers. Like Suda51's really slick, violent stuff with Swery's just complete and utter bizarro world stuff. Seems like it could be a good combination as long as they bring to life some interesting ideas, which is a bit uncertain at this point.
Yeah, I feel like someone needs to sit him down and be like, okay, here's everything Alejandro Jodorowsky's ever done. Go ahead and watch all of this, and this can be your new Twin Peaks. And go ahead and start making games inspired by this stuff. I'm gonna buy it. I'm excited. But yeah, I get it very much so.
You are listening to Podtoid.
All right, that is it for news, which means it is time for the Podtoid question of the week.
Must be real nice to be white.
It very much is, but that is not the Podtoid question of the week. This week's question is simple. Halloween is coming up this Thursday, so what is the best Halloween candy?
Snickers bar with a knitting needle shoved through it.
That is certainly a trick.
I meant sewing needle.
And I know you did, but like the image just stuck. The image just stuck with me. I love the idea of it just being like, Mom, someone gave me this candy, and it just got this 11-inch fucking needle.
That'd be great.
It's like go ahead.
Like a Reese's peanut butter cup, but it's shoved. The barrel of a pistol is shoved through it and just handed to him. Oh man, it's hard. See, for me, I'm always a fan of the Reese's peanut butter cups, and
with
I know
the gun
they
shoved
have
in the middle, yeah.
with the gun shoved in the middle. They have the pumpkin version, but it's still just a Reese's. So I'm gonna go. It's a classic answer, but one that has fallen out of favor in the past few years. But I do love candy corn. I really do.
I was actually going to bring candy corn up because it's something we don't really have here. I'm aware of what it is, and you can get it if you like really looked for it or you went to like old school sweet shops. But it's something that's really hard to get hold of in England. It's kind of just like clustered sugar, isn't it? It's almost like
it's just sugar and wax, and whatever form of cancer is going to kill me is no doubt being contributed to by that stuff. So.
And what's the general? Because I know that obviously it's referenced a lot, but like, what's the general consensus in America on candy corn? Like, do people like it, or is it something that everyone's like, oh shit, I got candy corn?
The latter.
Yeah, it was really, really like popular and fun in the, I guess, 80s and somewhat in the 90s, but I don't know what happened. I think just maybe America lost its innocence, and suddenly candy corn became something cool to hate.
I think the problem is that candy corn is good unless you get it hard. Like, if it's hard, it's awful. It's the worst thing to get on Halloween. But if you get like fresh candy corn, fresh from the ground, like
artisanal.
Yes, like stuff that was made within the last month or so, and it's nice and soft. It's really good. But so much candy corn just hardens up so quickly. You might as well be eating those shitty Valentine's Day hearts for how hard it can be.
Yeah, they taste like sugared teeth.
Yeah.
At that point.
Charlotte, what about you?
So it's a toss-up for me between, do you have Milky Ways in America?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I like Milky Ways a lot, like miniature Milky Ways. And also, when I was a kid, we used to be able to get miniature rolls of these like sort of pill-shaped sweets. And there was one that was just like fizzy sugar, and they were called Refreshers.
Oh,
And I
right.
I really like Refreshers.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, they're just like sherbety, fizzy goodness.
They're like hard sweets, but they're kind of dissolvable, aren't they? When they're
Yeah.
soluble when you put them on you. If you think of like Alka-Seltzer, but you imagined if Alka-Seltzer was just really fruity, that's basically what it is. Except
Do
you
you
don't
like-
put it in a glass of water.
No. Do you like Parma Violets, Chris?
I don't. No, they're too
No.
they're too fragrant. Like
Yeah.
I don't really want my sweets to taste like perfume.
Yeah, but I'm a fan of anything that's like that shape and it's like fizzy. There's also Love Hearts. I don't know if you have them. They have
Nope.
like little, yeah,
They have little
Yeah.
messages on, don't they? That are like,
yeah.
I fancy you and stuff.
Oh,
like
wait.
that.
We have these are like really hard, chalky candies. Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
no, we do
yeah.
have those. And they're the worst. They're just the fucking worst. But those are Valentine's Day for us, not for Halloween.
I mean, I swear I've got them from Halloween before. But yeah, anything like, I don't know. The thing is, chocolate, I don't eat sweets that much anymore because somebody said to me once that chocolate is better for your teeth because it doesn't stick quite as much. If you have like a drink, it gets rid of it faster. So I've just imagined my teeth rotting out of my skull if I eat any candy that's like sugary candy. So I think I'm going to go with my choice of the Milky Way. But really, any candy, free food. I like free food.
I'm
So
into that.
Dan?
Autumn stole both my answers, so I'll just go with the Canadian exclusive Coffee Crisp. Basically, to describe it, it's think a Kit Kat bar, but it's just like one single bar, but it's the same kind of wafer idea, except it has sort of a kind of a coffee flavoring and backwash to it. I don't know, I like it. I hated it as a kid, but as an adult now I'm into it, so.
I know that the candy I got the most often at Halloween was Three Musketeers because that seems to be the only time people try and punish children with that terrible fucking candy bar. But my personal favorite is the miniature 100 grand bars. Do you guys know what those are?
I don't even know what Three Musketeers are. You're going to have to explain all of this to us.
Yeah, same.
I've had Three Musketeers because you sometimes get them in like the import candy section. Isn't it kind of like hard nougat with peanuts in it?
No, that is not a Three Musketeers. Three Musketeers is like...
I got it. Okay, have y'all seen Demolition Man?
Okay, yeah.
This is, okay.
All right. Remember the scene where Sylvester Stallone wrecks the car and like to
Right.
prevent him from getting killed, that foam like encases everything in the car?
Yeah.
Imagine if you dip that shit in chocolate. That's what a Three Musketeers is.
You know what, Charlotte? It might be like a Milky Way that you were talking about earlier. I think it might be a Milky Way.
Huh, okay.
But the 100 grand bar is caramel, rice, and chocolate, and it's so fucking good. And I didn't get that often because they didn't really make that for Halloween candy when I was a kid. Unfortunately, what I got stuck with most was those goddamn, and Occam's, I'm sure you know what these are, root barrel wheels or root beer barrels.
Yeah.
Sorry, the mini root beer barrels.
We straight up burn people's houses down for those.
CG, you bringing up the is it the 100 grand bar? 100 gram?
grand bar, yes.
Yeah. It reminds me, my boyfriend does not like caramel. Who the heck does not like caramel? How is that even a thing?
Caramel makes my throat close up and I still eat it. Like, sometimes if I have something with too much caramel in, I fail to breathe, but I still eat it.
It's just like liquid, like it's literally it is burnt, like melted down sugar. Who the fuck doesn't like go nuts for that? I don't know.
I agree. You should dump
He's
them.
going to be the worst to buy like candy for. Seriously.
It's going to be plain chocolate bars. Just nothing but a regular Hershey's like your 90-year-old grandmother.
Do you guys have Werther's Original?
Oh, yeah, we do.
I'm sure,
Do we?
yeah, I'm sure, yeah,
Those
because I'm
rule.
sure we got it from you. But like, they're the kind of sweets that you eat if you're like choking, aren't they? It's like I kind of want a candy, but I also want the possibility of dying. I'll have a Werther's Original. I was reading. There's been a kind of a string of articles around Halloween that I've seen online like lately, where a lot of people, like older people this year, are kind of taking this stance, and it's probably bullshit. It's probably just red top bullshit, and no one's saying that. But the stance of like, I'm only giving out candy if the person's under a certain age, and only if their costume is a proper scary costume and not like just a costume from Fortnite or something. And it's like, shut the fuck up. Just give them some candy. Shut up.
Well, I did see that picture on Twitter. I can't remember which gaming personality retweeted it, but it was the like Fortnite costume equals no candy sign that they put on their door.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
Yeah, that is something that has popped up online. Again, I don't know if that's real or just something someone did as a joke. But in the United States, in a few cities, they have outlawed trick-or-treating for anyone over a certain age. And you can be charged with a misdemeanor if you're like 13 and a half years old and you're trick-or-treating.
But imagine being so fucking miserable.
Well, no, Chris, hold on. Well, hold on real quick, y'all. Hold on. Let me step in here. CJ, you're leaving out a very important part, that all the cities that have outlawed trick-or-treating after a certain age have solved every other problem in their city.
Yeah, it's true. I forgot about that. These are utopias except for those damn 14-year-olds trick-or-treating. God, we'd just be so perfect if they weren't 15-year-olds going around in their Fortnite costumes trying to get shitty root beer barrels from their neighbors.
God, those are the worst.
Or Necca wafers. Remember those?
Oh, Necca wafers.
I got a rock.
Okay, we are just about out of time, but before we go, Occams, we have a community shout out.
Yeah, it's kind of a combo, individual and then group. Shout out to Triscara Pops. I love when they change the Halloween names. But his little boy is back home, and so he's doing the dad thing, and he's very happy. And so I just want to give a shout out to him for that. Nice. I want to give him a shout out. Yeah, very nice. And I want to give a shout out to everyone in the community enjoying Outer Worlds, not Outer Wilds, right?
All right.
Although if you're enjoying Outer Wilds, it's also a very good game.
Yeah, it's cool too. It looks like it's the kind of game. It's coming in from GameFly next week for me, but hearing people talk about it, it looks like a kind of RPG that I've been wanting for a really long time, and it's maybe a lot of people haven't played this type of game before, and it makes me really happy. And so yeah, shout out to the community enjoying a fun game. So
awesome. All right, that is it, folks. On behalf of Chris, Charlotte, Occams, Dan, and myself, thank you for listening to Podtoid, and don't forget to subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Podbean, and the Destructoid YouTube channel.